We have reached another international break, and Iran has friendly matches coming up. On today's episode, we will take a look at Iran's 24 players called up by Amir Ghalenoei, and we will preview the friendly match with Bulgaria. You know the deal, and you know what time it is. It's time for Team Melli Talk. Who would be called up by Amir Ghalenoei? Hey everyone, welcome back to Team Melli Talk. We know what you want, so let's get right to Iran's 24-man roster. Starting with the goalkeepers, Ali Reza Bayronvand, Payam Niazmand, and Mohammad Reza Akhbari. Now for the center backs, Mortaza Pourali Ganji, Ruzbet Cheshmi, Hossein Moadmand, and Mohammad Daneshgar. Now for the wing backs, Ehsan Hajsafi, Milad Mohammadi, Sadegh Moharrami, and Ramin Rezaian. The midfielders, Saeed Ezatullahi, Ahmad Nurullahi, Ali Karimi, Ali Reza Alizadeh, Milad Sarlak. The wingers / attacking midfielders, Ali Reza Jahanbash, Saman Godus, Mohammad Mohebi, Mehdi Torabi, Vahid Amiri. Last but not least, the forwards, Mehdi Taremi, Shahryar Moghanlou, Reza Asadi. I like the three goalkeepers that Amir Ghalenoei called up, and even though I'm a huge fan of Ali Reza Bayronvand, I would love to see Mohammad Reza Akhbari get some playing time. He has only made one appearance for Iran, and I think he definitely deserves another shot. Now for the center backs, this is a position where I need to share some criticism of Amir Ghalenoei. Mohammad Daneshgar is 29 years old and has never been capped for Iran. Hossein Moradmand is 30 years old and he also has never played for Team Melli. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Amir Ghalenoei needs to give more opportunities to younger footballers. But because of scheduling conflicts, Iran's best U23 footballers are actually unavailable due to U23 Asian Cup qualifiers that are taking place in Uzbekistan from the 6th of September to the 12th of September. When analyzing the wingbacks, I am quick to say that Abulfazl Jalali should have been on this list. He has a lot of potential, he has excellent pace, and Iran always has trouble finding good left backs. One player that Jalali could have replaced from Iran's roster is Vahid Amiri. As we know, Vahid Amiri is 35 years old, and there is no reason to call him up anymore to Team Melli. Now for the midfielders. The only person from this list of midfielders that I have to question is Ali Reza Alizadeh of Golgohar. He is a defensive midfielder, and yes, this is a position where Iran lacks depth. But Alizadeh is 30 years old, and he made his debut appearance for Team Melli at the Central Asian Football Association Nations Cup in June in Uzbekistan. I really don't understand the thinking or the mindset of Amir Ghalenoei. It just appears that he really has a soft spot for players in their late 20s or early 30s who have never played for Team Melli. Pleasantly surprised to see Saman Godus on the list, and Mohammad Mohebi has been getting consistent playing time with Rostov in the Russian Premier League. But I will also say that I'm a bit surprised to see Saman Godus on this list. Only reason why is because he just recently signed his new contract with Brentford, meaning he has not been playing lately in the early weeks of the English Premier League. But what can we say? Ghalenoei is a mystery sometimes. No surprises with the forwards. Obviously, we always want to see Azmoun on Iran's roster, but he is getting situated in Italy with Roma. Reza Asadi is currently the top scorer of the Persian Gulf Pro League with 4 goals, and Shahryar Moghanlou has been great with 2 goals and 2 assists. I would have preferred to see Shahab Zahedi get called up instead of Shahryar Moghanlou. I mean, Zahedi has played against much better competition in the Ukrainian Premier League and in Hungary, whereas Moghanlou had a short stint in Portugal. But what can we say? Ghalenoei loves Sepahan more than Persepolis. And for this segment of the show, I am joined by my good friend Darren Yahyakhan. Darren, welcome back to Team Melli Talk. It's great to have you on the show, man.
It's great to have you hosting it, Art. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
We're all getting ready for Iran versus Bulgaria, and we've all seen the list of players. From your point of view, who are the players that, you're kind of disappointed about? It's like, it's those moments, it's those head scratching moments. It's like there's about 3 players you mentioned to me. So, who are those players where you're a little bit upset that they were not included on this list by Amir Ghalenoei?
So yeah, I mean, there's always a bunch of shocks for these kind of stuff, and I'm going to start from goalkeeper to striker. So the first player being Hossein Hosseini, who has been in great form for Esteghlal in the opening games of the Iranian Pro League. Saved a penalty, was a very crucial player, and I think it was a big miss not calling him up, despite the fact Ghalenoei likes to call domestic players. So that was kind of a head scratcher. The second player would be Hossein Kanoni. He brings so much to Iran. He's a very physical player. He puts a lot of pressure on the other team, and he's one of those players who does get into that heads and opponents of other players' teams. So I think that's a player we do need, and I was shocked for him not getting called. And the final player is Karim Ansari, probably the most experienced player among all these players I named, and it kind of shocks me because I know he's playing in Cyprus. I know he's older, but he still has the experience. He has the work rate. He makes an impact every time he plays. So I think he's a good player to have and start. And I do believe he's better than the domestic strikers Ghalenoei called up for Iran compared to Ansari Farad, because Ansari Farad is a long-serving player for Team Melli, and his experience is crucial.
All right. Well, I appreciate the explanation. You got a lot of information to share there. But let's go back to the goalkeepers first. I definitely have to agree with you on Hossein Hosseini. That's a surprise there. And earlier I already mentioned that, I'm excited to see. Earlier I mentioned that I would like to see Mohammad Reza Akhbari get a shot at playing. That's just because, I've been a fan of him for quite a few years. I know he's only played one time for Iran, but yeah, I think this is one of those situations where you could say whether it's, Hossein Hosseini were to be called up, maybe you exclude Niazmand or maybe you exclude Akhbari. I'm not a big fan of bringing 4 goalkeepers to a camp, but, who am I to really make that decision? I don't see Hossein Hosseini being excluded a lot from here on out moving forward. He is a very good keeper. So, if it's just, we got to wait and see what happens on the upcoming list. But, when talking about Hossein Kanani, let's face it, he has been the center of controversy before. And he, from what we know, is that he was excluded from this list because of disciplinary reasons. And I'm not the biggest fan of Kanani. To be honest, I think he's a solid defender, and he does bring some, he does bring that good energy to Team Melli. I don't think he's one of those defenders who's irreplaceable. But earlier in the show, I mentioned that Mohammad Daneshgar and Hossein Moradmand. Daneshgar is 29 and Moradmand is 30. So yes, in this situation, I obviously would prefer to see Kanani called up instead of one of them.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Of course, disciplinary reasons play a big factor in this case, like you just mentioned, and I do feel like he should be disciplined, and it's important for a player to get disciplined when something wrong is done. But I'm just hoping he can make the final cut for the Asian Cup for that roster.
In all honesty, the timing of these friendlies. And this is something that's really important to consider, is that, there are a lot of the U23 players are unavailable. So some people are going to say that Ghalenoei deserves it's okay to give Ghalenoei some kind of pass. I'm not the one saying that, but I understand where some people will say that. But now let's go to Karim Ansari Farad. Look, Karim Ansari Farad is 33 years old. And I know he's done a lot of great things for Iran, but I don't, not seeing him on the list didn't really fully bother me. But I'm trying to guess what's going through your head. You probably think that Shahriyar Moganlu, should not be getting called up over Ansari Farad. And maybe you're thinking the same thing of Reza Asadi. But let's not forget, Asadi does have 4 goals so far, is a top scorer of the Persian Gulf Pro League.
Yeah, I have nothing to take away from Asadi and Mohanoglu. Great players, great strikers, and they are always great players to have on the team. And, they can definitely come off the bench and make an impact. But I don't think they are Team Melli material. And what I mean by that is that they don't have the experience. They're not the youngest too. They are younger than Ansari Farad, of course, but I don't see them, bringing much to Team Melli. And it's just, we've seen in those Kappa games, they didn't do too much. I think that was their shot. I know they haven't been capped too much with Iran, the national team, but Ansar Farhad, it's, he does have a bit of an advantage, but I don't think Ghalenoei is rating him. It's always good to have a few very experienced players on the team because without an international experience, you cannot win games or competition, and this is very important. You always have to have at least 2 to 4 players on that team who have that international experience.
You mentioned Asadi and Moghanlou not being Team Melli material, and to me, you are right on the money. I agree that they're not fully Team Melli material. I think when we see when we see the list of players called up for qualifiers in November, I think that's when we're going to really have all the permission and all the ammunition ready to really possibly be very harsh on Ghalenoei depending on who he calls up.
I have no disrespect for Amir Ghalenoei. He's a great coach, and he's one of the best coaches of Iran, and I have to give him credit for that. But our biggest question for Amir Ghalenoei is can he bring that success for the national team? Because let's not forget, this is his second stint with the team, so it is his second shot. He has more experience. He definitely has learned from his mistakes, and from what I've been seeing in the trainings or news or Instagram or social media, he does look like a disciplined person. And the trainings, it looks like.
Well, one thing I definitely cannot agree with is that, you said Ghalenoei is a great coach. He's done great things in the Persian Golf Pro League, but I refuse to call him a great coach. And that's just because he has a problem with not calling up younger players. He lives too much in the moment. And if he starts calling up younger players, giving younger guys an opportunity, I'm going to be much more of a supporter of him. But on top of that, aside from that, Darren, just want to thank you for taking the time to join me on Team Melli Talk. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for having me, Art. I'm very excited. Yeah, good talking to you.
There is not much of a history between Iran and Bulgaria. Only one meeting in a friendly match back in 1978 that ended in a 1-1 draw. Bulgaria has not done much in recent years. In fact, the last time Bulgaria participated in a major tournament was the 2004 European Championship. But this team still has players to watch. Valentin Antov of Cremonese, Ilya Gruyev of Leeds United, and Kirill Despodov of Ludogorets Razgrad. Valentin Antov is a center back, but he can also play as a defensive midfielder. Antov is only 22 years old, but he's already been capped 19 times for Bulgaria. He's one of those fearless center backs who is excellent with his slide tackling abilities. Ilya Gruyev is a defensive midfielder. He is 23 years old. He hasn't made any appearances yet for Leeds, but he played regularly for Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga from 2021 to 2023. Last but not least, winger Kirill Despodov is the captain of Bulgaria. He is 26 years old. He is not a foreign-based player, but he has scored 10 goals for Bulgaria, and he has the ability to create trouble for Team Melli. The head coach of Bulgaria is Mladen Krstajic. Krstajic was head coach of Serbia at the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia, and he is actually the first foreign head coach for Bulgaria in over 10 years. The match between Iran and Bulgaria will be played at the Hristo Botev Stadium in Plovdiv on the 7th of September. Let's face it, Iran is favored due to having better players and more experience. But this Bulgarian team has talented players and will be very tough to beat at home. And to finish off this edition of Team Melli Talk, I want to talk keys to victory. Number 1, close down space on the flanks. Number 2, limit shots from long range. Bulgaria doesn't have the players that will easily dribble through Iran's defense, but they are dangerous when they attack on the flanks, and they are not afraid to test Iran from long range. Now, what about you? What do you think Iran must do in order to defeat Bulgaria? Leave a comment down below. Always look forward to getting your input. And that's it, everybody, for this edition of Team Melli Talk. As always, really do appreciate the support. Make sure you get to our website, www.teammellitalk.com. Remember, this is your best source for the latest news on Team Melli, the national team of Iran. Make sure you find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know the handle, @Team Melli Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that notification button. See you on the next edition of Team Melli Talk.